Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'll entertain a motion as it relates to our minutes of August 25th.
Move to accept.
Okay. All those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Opposition, the same sign. An update on the progress, and Katie, would you do that for us?
Maybe before I do, I'm not on, the usual. Okay. Maybe before I do that, we had invited the governor and lieutenant governor and speaker to be here, and the speaker and the governor had a conflict, and the lieutenant governor did too, but he recorded a short video. Some remarks for the commissioners. And is this a good time, Judge, to watch that? Josh?
I want to take this opportunity to thank our commissioners for all your hard work. I don't think any of you were thinking on January 1st of 2020 you'd be involved in giving Mississippi a flag we can be proud of for decades and centuries going forward. But you have. You spent a lot of work, a lot of effort. Archives and History did a great job displaying the flag, allowing the votes, giving public opinion. You should be very proud of your work. And we're going to be very proud when your flag is adopted as Mississippi State flag for a long and prosperous future for our state, where we collectively believe in what we have flying over our public assets.
That was brief and to the point.
Okay, now to the update on the process. First, intellectual property rights. As you know, all of the top 5 designers signed documents releasing their intellectual property rights, and the commissioners had approved that release. Whit Rayner, our intellectual property lawyer, then adapted those agreements to produce one for commissioners to sign because of your contributions to the process, and one for Kara Giles, Dominique Pugh, and Clay Moss to sign. So those 2 agreements need to be approved by the commission today. And Whit is here if you have any questions.
I still move we approve those.
All those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Opposition, the same sign. Motion passes.
Okay, second, the voter education initiative. At the August 14th meeting, the commission passed a resolution stating the need for a voter education effort to inform the voters that the flag will be on the November ballot and that they will have the chance to vote for the new state flag. The lieutenant governor and the speaker agreed on the importance of this and have asked MDAH to work with the commission to lead it. So we are working with Godwin Group to produce a documentary about the Flag Commission. You'll be interviewed for it today. And then video clips from the documentary will be used in public service spots as well. This is not an advocacy campaign promoting the flag, but an opportunity to document the great work of the commission, to share the stories of individual commissioners and designers, and to celebrate the broad public engagement in this process and the opportunity to fly a new flag. So I just wanted to let y'all know about that, and the work starts today when y'all are interviewed for the documentary. The third thing I wanted to mention is that FlagSource got some initial orders for one of the flags, the one with the Magnolia in it, and they, as they always do, they went to Clay Moss to make the refinements that are needed before the flag can be manufactured. So I want to tell you what he did. Some of them were absolutely necessary changes. The flags can't be made without them, and others were refinements that y'all can decide whether you like or not. Okay, this is the new one? Okay, here's what he did. He widened the circle of stars and made each star bigger. Those are optional. He vectored the stars, which lines them up. That had to be done. He changed the font of In God We Trust to make it stand out more. That's optional. And he simplified the stamen of the magnolia, which had to be done. The colors were standardized, as I had explained at an earlier meeting, by the flag company, Flag Source. So, Clay, did I leave any changes out?
I think that's accurate.
Okay. So it's up to y'all whether to, what's up to y'all is the stamen, no, I'm sorry, the size of the stars, the size of the circle, and the font.
I would love to see on the screen the flag that we voted on last time compared to this one with those changes.
Clay, is the magnolia off center?
I think once the circle got bigger, it's kind of weighted towards the bottom. I think it needs to be centered. And I'm going to look at both. I really, the one thing that I feel most strongly about is the font. I don't like the typeface change. I don't disagree that it's probably easier to read in the one that you changed it to, but I really think that we need a serifed font. I think that a serifed font is much more stately and handsome than just the block font. And the font that's actually used there, I understand from the designer, is Americana. So I think that's a good font to use, and I think that it is, I think it's very attractive and stately.
Why did you widen the circle?
I didn't widen it as much as what we did was we standardized it relative to the height of the flag, and the general standard for any such emblem is 2/3 the height. So I didn't widen it as much as I made it taller. I didn't touch the collective width of anything on the old flag. I simply it was in an odd sort of size in the middle, so we just, for standardization's sake, made it 2/3 the height of the flag. Now, on designs that are proportioned 2:3, a 4x6 foot flag, the 10x15s that might fly over the Capitol, because of the narrowness of those, we've had to go a little bit smaller with the emblem in the middle there, and in that case, it would be 85% the length of the blue bar, so that's a horizontal adjustment. Now, as far as the magnolia itself, yeah, I can see now that we've got to go back and get it centered a little bit more than what we did. What I inherited and what I worked with, it was already dropped. I don't know how it got there, but I just received artwork. And then from there, just to show you what I did with the stars real quick. Let me point right here, and you guys can get an idea. Let's look between these two stars right here, for example. And these up here, you'll see a definitive difference in space between them. So I took I did a count estimate for a complete flag source, and I estimated that if that circle had nothing but stars in it, they could easily accommodate 28 stars. So I made a 28-point grid. I literally drew a 28-point star, and I superimposed it on that flag, and then I equally spaced each star out. And then that gave you enough space for the motto at the bottom, and then the gold star up top occupies a space of what 2 stars would. It's a size and a half larger than the other stars. And then I also made them about 10% bigger. That was my own idea, but I did pass it around to a number of people that thought the larger size stood out a little bit better. And then it was the flag company that requested the heavier font. They're telling me that if you go to smaller flags, you're going to lose the motto because of the penetration of the dyes will simply cover some of those letters. So that wasn't my idea as much as it was. I think it was something we discussed in the last meeting about possibly needing to make it more bold. And I did speak with Holly and just verify that we had that talk. I didn't know if you guys verified it or not, but the flag companies are telling us that the current font we have will not show on smaller flags, particularly stick flags and that type of thing. So it's going to necessarily require that we do something bolder. We could go with a serif font, but it needs to be a bolder font.
I think last time, the discussion that we had, we got Dominique to play with it to change the width of the vertical stripes on the end to be what you had recommended. Can't remember what the proportions are supposed to be, but we altered those. And she added some strokes and fixed the kerning of that type to make it a little bolder, but we could still increase, you know, even more. I mean, make it more bold, but I feel really strongly about it being a serif font, so how do we fix that?
Robin, you're just wanting it more bold, right? And the serif font, but bolder.
Correct.
Okay, I agree with that.
I just think it's a lot more stately than the non-serif font in this design.
Clay, I know you mentioned this to us last time. Help me understand the difference in the gold. Do the flag companies, I mean, I'm not a fan of the bright yellow. I think it's more stately, the traditional gold. So is that something we can't have?
Well, when you guys digitally print the last flag, I won't get into the details now, but digitally printing one-off flags sometimes are all over the place. You really do not know what the machine's going to do. And if this eventually becomes a state flag, it's going to require printing mostly to be economical. So they then will screen print, which is different than digitally printing. They'll make screens. They're very expensive to do. They'll want to get them right the first time so they don't have to repeat themselves. And then when they go there, they'll be able to accurately produce whichever color of yellow gold you want. I just heard general comments in the room when we raised the flags on flag raising day that the yellow gold seemed to stand out better to those certain people than others. But those colors that were in the cloth flags were yellow gold. They were not our old gold that we initially went with. My suggestion would be something in between old gold and Spanish yellow. I think the old gold may not stick out, be as pop, I guess, for lack of the word y'all have been using, like a little bit brighter color would. So it would certainly be something that's doable on the screen printed flag, and it'd just be a matter of experimenting with those gold colors until you guys were happy with what you saw.
I think that, and I don't know if Dominique can do this while we are waiting or not, but if that font can be bonded and add some strokes and then adjust the kerning, it will, I think, be bold enough for us to look at it and determine that that's the font that we like best on that design. I do think, I like your suggestion, Clay. I don't know what colors are available, and so, but I like your suggestion of something between those two, something between that gold, and I do think that bright yellow, it becomes too dominant in the design to me once that yellow's that bright.
I agree with that
It
as well.
almost attracts.
Too bright.
It does, and especially since this, and I don't know if it's, part of it is that shade of yellow, but the other is that the stamen is solid now and draws your attention a lot more. You know, I think that the designer of the Magnolia was thinking of all of the different parts of Mississippi represented there in that stamen. So I think that was a key design element, but what I'm understanding is that can't happen, right?
There's just not a way on, again, smaller flags that the detail in screen printing is going to come out. You're going to lose something. So again, I just, as I thought about what might work, I simply solidified it. And as far as, trying to maintain that there, you can. And on the larger flags, it'd be fine. On the 10 by 15 foot flags, you wouldn't have any issues. But I'd say as far down as 3 by 5 feet and smaller, you'd have design
Do
issues.
people do that? I'm certainly no vexillologist, as I've proven with every comment I've made, probably. But is that abnormal to say, okay, that's the design that we love? We know that as it becomes smaller, it would have to be printed as a block or what have you, or do you not do that? You go in and make those adjustments in your larger flag?
I would suggest you guys come up with something that's going to be, will be printable and usable right down to the smallest flag. That way there's constant adjustments in trying to accommodate different sizes or that type of thing. at the end of the day, as far as your emblem really is the symbol in the middle of the flag. The stripes are stripes, and those are never going to be issues to deal with, whether they're sewn or printed. But exactly what do you want to happen with the emblem in the middle as you print smaller flags? And inordinately, if the flag becomes popular and is flown throughout the state, on homes and that type of thing, the majority of your flags are going to be the 3 by 5 feet or 4 by 6. That's the highest selling American flag and the highest volume selling state flag almost anywhere you can think of. The only larger flags that would probably ever be made would be the one for the Supreme Court and the one for the front of the Capitol building.
I've heard this discussion and the responses. Do you think it's necessary that we have a motion with regards to it?
I think Dominique's about to show us the changes
Yes.
that we've discussed. I would love to see those first, if you don't mind, Judge, just to see if we are good with those changes.
Okay. Why don't you make a motion that those changes be made?
All right. I'd like to make a motion that the changes, including making the serif font more bold, finding a yellow between the gold and the bright yellow, and making sure that the Magnolia element is centered rather than weighted towards the bottom of the circle.
I second that.
Okay.
Hey, before we
Any
proceed,
discussion?
Clay, I have a quick question for you. How do you think it would work if we brought the In God We Trust inside of the circle of stars, close the circle, maybe a complete circle of stars, to move it back to 20 stars to represent us being the 20th state admitted to the Union instead of 21 stars? So closing that circle, making it 19 white stars, the gold diamond star would be the 20th star, and we would move In God We Trust inside of the circle underneath the Magnolia. Do you think that?
I think my response to that would be just draw it and see. Take a look. If Dominique was able to do that quickly, or we could do that later, we could look at it.
Y'all, I just love having the diamond star as the first star.
I think we did try the In God We Trust on a couple of them in the center, and it didn't look right. It looked better on I do remember us trying that.
I think we did too. We've had it in the circle.
I don't know if I remember that or not. We do have it? Okay.
I know we have a motion and a second. We're waiting to see the changes.
Yeah, I want to see the changes before we vote.
While we're waiting, I want to take this opportunity to thank Clay Moss, who has been a wonderful guide to us through the process of designing a flag. And I have to disagree with you, Robin. I think we are all vexillologists now. You've been wonderful. Thank you so much, Clay.
Thank you, Ray.
I think we've all certainly added a new word to our vocabulary.
And there are a number of other people I want to thank, so I'll just start filling them in as we have time. Please indulge me one more time in thanking the staff of the Department of Archives and History, who have worked tirelessly around the clock, weekends, nights, with great resourcefulness and great willingness. I cannot give them raises, I cannot give them bonuses, I cannot pay them overtime, but I can at least thank them. Robert Benson, our Deputy Director, who is right at my side in every decision. Emma McRaney, my wonderful patient assistant, who has been near communications point. Tyrone Porter, our IT Director, the finest in the business. Joshua Watson, you have seen what Josh can do, and the answer is anything. Kamisha Spann, right at his side. Gary Ballard, is Gary here? Gary is the webmaster and has monitored all the comments and dealt with the poll the last couple of weeks. Eric Watson is in the booth back there. Michael Morris, Brother Roger, Stephanie Morrissey, our wonderful PR team. Michael has handled countless PR requests on this, media requests. And then the wonderful Two Mississippi Museum staff, Director Pamela Jr., I think is here, no? They have done an extraordinary job. Holly Lang, what would we do without Holly Lang? She has managed this whole process beautifully. Dominique Pugh is not visible today, but her work is. She's been wonderful and delightful to work with. Whit Rayner, our IP attorney, keeping us out of trouble, and Tommy Goodwin from the AG's office. I want to thank TJ Taylor, who alerted us to the need for the IP attorney, and when I sent him an IP agreement that I found online, he said, attorney, we need an attorney, and he was so right. I mentioned the flag source. Brenda McIntyre has been a wonderful resource. Our Capitol Police, who are always here with us, and we appreciate you so much. The media, the public, and the commissioners, thank you all so much for your work. Now let's go to the flags.
So we have the original flag that we looked at last week on the bottom right. And then on the top left, I guess we have the one that Clay changed. And then on the top right is that same one with the bolder serifed font. And then on the bottom left is TJ's change.
So
And the top right has the color, is that true? Change?
we think it'll be somewhere in the middle.
It
There'll be
does.
more gold.
And the Magnolia is weighted further up than it was in the last.
So the top right, I think, better reflects what we were asking for with a bolder font. And the stars a little closer together. I don't care for them so far apart. I think the top right gets us back to where we were, a little closer to where we were originally. And then, of course, the color somewhere in the middle.
I agree.
Is it just my eyes, or is the circle elongated in the top right?
I missed that.
Is the circle elongated? Or is it just my position, or,
We will make sure it is a circle.
Yeah.
are you seeing it?
I don't, no,
Okay.
I don't. I think it looks
I think it's just the angle then.
right to me.
I make a motion, we accept top right with the amendments there too. Second.
Second.
Well, again, before we vote, I would like us to be accurate. I think we can still include the Diamond Star, half 20, that recognizes us as the 20th state. We're not the 21st state. So I would really encourage us to go with, make all the other changes that you guys like, the bar colors, whatever else. But I really think we should stick to 20 stars. I think down the line, maybe not today or tomorrow, or maybe not in year 2 or year 3, I think maybe down the line, decades later, we may say, why did we choose 21 stars? I could be wrong.
But we didn't choose 21 stars. We have 20 stars representing statehood.
Say that again?
We have 20 stars representing statehoods. Those are the states. We have 1 star, that's the first star, that represents all of the first peoples that were here before all of the states became states.
For a total
Or
of
before-
21 stars.
Right,
Yeah.
but you have the one first people star, and then you have the 20 state stars. So there's a difference.
Well, I guess we can disagree on that, but
Okay. I don't want to wrap up discussion, but we had a motion. Do you want to withdraw that motion?
We actually have 2, so should I withdraw mine?
Yes,
I will withdraw my motion.
and the second to it. And I think, Mag, did you second that motion? Robin?
I think I made the motion.
You made the subsequent motion.
Yeah, I only heard Mac's motion, so.
Okay,
Mine was before we started looking at it.
okay. We've got a motion
Actually,
by
I made a
Max, and
motion.
Mac, do you want to state that motion?
My motion was that we accept the top right flag with amendments made. Appreciate what TJ's saying. So what we talked, before I finish, okay, You talking about just putting 20 stars up there?
No, he's talking about that bottom left. He's talking about the bottom left.
No, I don't think so. I think you're talking about.
No, it's-
Right, just taking out the.
No, it's the bottom left.
You want
Yeah, that one has the 20 stars. We still get to include the star to represent our Native American history. We keep In God We Trust. We just move it inside the circle. And it's a total of 20 stars.
Mac, did you understand his,
So you want to leave In God We Trust within the circle of stars, TJ?
That's right. Bottom left.
And bottom left.
Clay, would it not be true that in the bottom left, as you said earlier, wouldn't that be too small to put on a smaller flag? That's what the issue was with the other In God We Trust.
I imagine the flag companies will say that, particularly if it's important that we go with that particular font. The smaller you get it, the more difficult it's going to be to reproduce it on smaller flags. Larger flags aren't a problem. But yeah, it'll be a problem.
If we brought it outside of the circle, underneath the circle, would you guys be opposed to that? And put it straight across? Again, if y'all are if y'all are ready to proceed, and you know, that's fine. I just thought I would, you know, speak my
TJ, we
piece.
want to have as much discussion as we can, but we do have a motion and a second, and feel free to continue.
Well, let me, TJ, on the top right, how many stars? There are 20 stars plus the gold star at the top, correct?
That's right.
Okay? Anyway, what you're saying is to take out one of the stars on the top right, and the gold star at the very top would make it a total of 20 stars.
That's correct. The bottom left would make it 20 stars total.
Then they're
It
not
makes it off
balanced.
balance.
That's why we did this in the first place.
It's been a little confusing.
Okay.
Because when you have 20, you can't have a center star. So you
Well, that
need-
certainly makes sense.
You need the odd number. And that was a good way to incorporate the diamond star and give it some significance. And by being the first star instead of the 20th star, it's got, you know, it encompasses the first peoples. So,
Clay, you want to address what was recommended?
It is a good question. I would have to sit down on the computer, put another grid in place, and see if we could bring evenness to a collective group of 20 stars with the center gold star, because it's bigger. Which
And that would require us not to vote today.
It requires not to vote on this particular design, yes, until we could figure that out.
Yeah, we're going to choose a flag today. By statute, we're required to do that. And any discussion on the motion?
How long would that take, Clay? Do you think?
Oh, I could get it done in a matter of minutes once I was on the computer. It wouldn't take a whole lot of time to figure out if we could do it. I say minutes, give me an hour or so, to do it. But we could know pretty quickly if we could bring balance to an imbalanced array of stars. And then I could candidly let you know, what came about.
TJ, is that something that you're going to request that we do, or what?
I would like to, but I mean, it'll be the will of the commission. I would.
19 regular sized stars and that larger star and make them symmetrical. That's all I'm saying. What you do after that is another part of the debate. On the bottom, motto and I'm telling you, I think the motto and top's going to be too small if we're going to go with the, with the. Yeah.
Thank you, Clay. We have Mac's motion. Does the body want to have Mac to restate his motion, or are you ready to vote?
Can I interrupt one more time? Sorry, that's provided
Clay.
the motto's not in the circle. Okay.
We have a second motion, and are you ready to vote? If so, all those in favor of Mac's motion indicate aye. Aye. Opposition, the same sign. Ayes have it. I turn it back over to you, Katie.
Okay, just to restate, our next agenda item is to actually vote on the flag. And I want everybody in the room and watching to be clear on what that vote will be. There are 2 flags left, the Magnolia flag and the Great River flag, and that's what will appear on the ballot. The ballot will not show these very minor changes that you have made today in the new Magnolia flag. But those changes will be made. You have elected to make those changes if the Magnolia flag is selected. Is that your understanding of where we are? And the changes are going back to the old font, but making it bolder and adjusting the yellow. And that's it, right? Okay.
Yeah, the yellow would be more gold than yellow.
Okay.
Are there changes to be discussed on the Great River flag? I know he sent us an email with the different borders and things based on suggestions that the public had had and different members had had. Is that anything that?
I don't know, I mean, the public has seen the flag as it is. There's several variations that was provided by the designer to include different color schemes, different symbols. That would be up to the commission, whether y'all want to take a look at all that. I mean.
No, up to you. I thought there were some attractive changes, so whatever, it doesn't matter to me.
So y'all ready for a?
Katie, I do have one motion I'd like to present to the commission. In the giving credit to the artists that have played a part in each of the flags. The initial First Peoples Star, the Native Star, was actually provided by Micah Whitson, and I would like to add him, put this in a motion to add Micah Whitson for credit of the First Peoples Native Star into the Magnolia flag as well.
I'm second with that.
Okay. You heard the motion and the second. All those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Opposition, the same sign. Motion passes. Back to you, Katie.
Okay. Here are the 2 flags, but that's not still working.
I do have just a comment. It's been exciting and difficult, as we all know. We've gotten lots of feedback from everybody. I think the exciting thing is we have 2 that people are very passionate about. The hard part is that both of them can't be on the ballot, I guess, because that's not how the statute is written, is my understanding. Is that correct?
That's right.
But I do think that we as a commission are looking at what the people have said and what they are, commenting on, and we've all heard that. I'm excited that people have been so engaged, and it's really been an honor to work with everybody on that. But like I said, the easy thing would be if they both could be on there, but I know they can't.
Is that a possibility to make that happen?
No.
Who says
I'm
no?
sorry, Mac's now in the legislature.
I was like, man, who said that?
I think it's the law.
It's the law.
Can it be adapted?
You can change it next legislative session, I guess.
Okay, these are the flags you're voting on today. Are y'all ready for your ballots?
Well, I'm always the one to throw a wrench in things, I know, but just for thought, I do think that we have 2 choices that are stately and handsome and represent our state well, and we'll gladly support either. I do think that it would be nice if we can't, I feel like we should have had both on a ballot. I do. I know that's not the way the legislation was written, but I do believe that Mississippians deserved the opportunity to choose between 2. I also believe that it is critical that this flag passes in November. And I just wonder, the voting, people have voted from all over the United States on these flags. And so, I'm left to not have a lot. I know that we filtered it and people could only vote once from an IP address, but it's not just Mississippians that have voted on these flags. And I'm just going to put it out there, and if the commission doesn't want to do it, I totally understand. But, I wonder about doing a poll of registered Mississippi voters to see what flag, if they can't vote on it on the ballot, to see which flag they would vote on. You know, the law also states that we should have this decision made by September the 14th. So we have 12 days before we have to have the decision made. And the commission may not wish to do that, but I would like to see us do a poll of Mississippi registered voters to see how Mississippians, you know, respond to that.
I would agree with that. Is that in the form of a motion?
It can be.
How would,
Let
how in
me-
the world would you
Let me make
tell-
sure I understand what you're saying. Would you be saying that before we voted, that we needed to ascertain whether or not Mississippians, people voted from all over the country?
I would say that I would propose that we have a poll that a company would conduct just of registered voters in Mississippi to see if Mississippians, you know, I would like to know that Mississippians have a voice in choosing this flag.
I will say one more thing about the date. I did confirm with the Secretary of State's office, because they have to approve the ballot. It has to be done by the 9th, which would be next Wednesday, I believe.
Today is the day that the date that they gave me. Today is the deadline for the Secretary of State to begin their process to get everything on the ballot. So if the commission does not make a choice today, the flag will not be on the ballot in November, is my understanding from the Secretary of State's office.
Should I just straight up, do you want to make a motion that we delay our vote today to a
I
later
guess I'm
time?
just confused on the date, since the
what is the
legislation
date?
stated that it must be presented to them by the 14th. Did they just have the date wrong in their legislation, I guess?
I don't know where the date in the legislation came from, but after the legislation was passed and we began working on this process, the Lieutenant Governor's office connected me with the Secretary of State's office, and they said that date will not give them enough time to print the absentee ballots with the flag on it. And I said, what's the final deadline where you can get the flag on the absentee ballots and out to all of the circuit clerks? And they said September 2nd.
Unless we have a majority vote of the commission to delay the vote today, we will have it, and I'll go around. Should we delay?
I would like to see the results of the poll.
You want to see, let me make sure I understand. You
I'd
want to see?
say delay.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if you please. Looking at the email that we received yesterday from Katie, it says total filter U.S. votes, 74,411. I don't understand U.S. votes, what are filtered, what are unfiltered? How do we measure what is the true accurate votes that we receive?
Well, this isn't a vote. It's a public poll, and so it's not the same as, you know, a vote on election day.
I understand that. What do you mean U.S.?
Within the U.S., we were getting blocks of votes from overseas, large numbers overnight. And so we asked Gary to filter out the votes from overseas. So the votes that you're looking at, the totals that you're given, show only votes from the U.S., and they are also filtering out duplicates.
So I mean, any state in the union could have voted on our flag, and that's what this is reflecting?
Yes.
Does it reflect, it doesn't reflect registered voters
No.
or Mississippians, right?
No, it's not a vote. It's just an opinion poll online.
I understand.
It's interest, and we have probably registered voters living overseas. But
We
how
have a
in the
lot of people-
world, how in the world would we be able to filter registered voters? It's
Well, that was
hard
my
enough to
question.
do that when we have mail-in votes, so I'm going to go for don't delay. We need to vote on this, y'all.
It's a poll because children could vote. And it has no impact, I think, on anything other than being a poll.
So
But-
are you saying there's no way to do a poll, vote, and screen for all those things that we mentioned?
Yes.
Like age,
No,
registered
you
voter?
can. Yeah.
How does that work, TJ?
So if you, like in the political campaign, Robin, you've run for office, I don't know if somebody else has, you get a universe of registered voters, likely voters in a presidential year, since that's what year this is, and you get voting age population, 18 and older, and you can do it statewide poll.
Who would pay for that poll, and how would it be paid for?
I think there are probably many interested, people who want this either flag to pass in November who would be more than happy. I don't know if Archives and History has money from the legislature left over or not.
No.
I don't know.
As a matter of fact, we
I
don't.
would just say that if this means that the flag can't be on the ballot, then it's a non-starter. It doesn't really matter what.
I think we've
I mean,
had a
if-
poll. I mean, we've been polling since we first started.
Katie,
Just
you're
that-
saying that's a hard deadline. Today is a hard deadline.
That's my understanding from the Secretary of State's office.
Okay.
Well, and we originally
have to go with
changed
it.
the date. We originally changed the date based on those dates
That's right.
and also circuit clerks, so their concerns. And I have to say, like I said, it's been tight all along. I did a
has
personal
been.
poll yesterday on Facebook, and I said, you know, the reality is, we've talked about it, my top one didn't make the top 5 or 10, and I'm okay with that because it represents Mississippi. It doesn't represent me as a person. And so I think, you know, it's going to be whatever we decide today, we're going to go out and share that story and share our experiences of what we've done. And we want the people of Mississippi to vote for this in November, and we're ready for that future. And it's a hard call because we've all been very passionate. That's why we were picked to be a part of this, you know, and I'm honored that we were, but it's hard.
It is hard, and they're two great flags, so if you're telling me it's a hard deadline, then we don't have a choice. So,
Can we, well,
TJ, I didn't hear you.
I'm just, I guess, thinking to myself. I know many members that I've talked to on the commission have mentioned the poll, the survey that we've conducted, and the showing. Some of you have said, you know, you kind of want to go along with that because it shows that the people want one flag over the other. I think if that's the case, and we want to hear from Mississippians, I think maybe a true scientific poll may be the way to go if we want to select the flag that Mississippians will choose in November. Because the current survey, if that's correct, if children can vote in it, if people from California and Texas and Georgia and God knows where else can vote in this survey that we've done, then that's not a true representation of how Mississippians feel. And
I
we're
don't know
choosing
that-
the flag for Mississippians.
I don't know that polling is 100%.
Well, the other thing about polling, you'll have to have 3 or 4 very strong days to get the samples that you need. It's Labor Day weekend. Just timing, if we really had wanted to do a poll, I think it is a great idea, but we probably should have done it 2 weeks ago. There should have been a time to do it, and unfortunately, you know, we are in a situation where it has to be decided on. And I understand exactly what TJ's saying. I think the poll, you're still going to get, they do political polls all the time, and it always, you just never know who they're polling or how it works, but there are scientific ways to do it. I think we have to go with our gut and what we as a commission have been working on. We've been talking to people, hundreds and thousands of them for the last few months that we've been doing this. I feel like that we have to vote today and move forward.
I'm certainly prepared to vote today. I just, you know, I've heard from numerous people who wish that they had had an opportunity to vote on more than one flag. I realize that's not an option. I very much wish it were. I very much wish that these two fabulous designs could go on a ballot. I understand that's just simply not how the legislation was drafted. And so in my mind, it was an opportunity to let Mississippians, registered voters in Mississippi, and have a say. But I totally understand if today is the deadline. I just was looking at the legislation that says September 14th and thought, I don't know, maybe we've got time to let a scientific poll happen, but we can move forward. I will take back my motion.
This discussion is great, and I'm glad to see it, but I'll entertain a motion that we vote today.
Second.
All those in favor of voting today indicate aye. Aye. Opposition, the same sign.
No.
We've got TJ in opposition. Anybody else? Katie, I check it back to you on the voting process.
All right, Holly, Robert? Okay, the ballots are in front of you. You have a pen. Go ahead and vote, and we will pick them up. And while y'all are voting,
Do we bubble in, X, or check?
it doesn't matter. It will not be tallied by computer. While we're voting, I wanted to recognize a few people here. We have former Congressman Chip Pickering. We have Senator Hillman Frazier, who has been at every single meeting. And I believe I saw Pastor C.J. Rhodes at Mount Helm Church. And I'm sure many other friends and dignitaries who I can't recognize because you're all wearing masks. But the public participation has been wonderful. We've loved having the public at the meetings, watching on Facebook. I'm grateful for every single one of the thousands of emails I've gotten with people's input about the flags. This has been a wonderful process.
Katie, thank you for your leadership. We appreciate all the work that
Thank you.
Archives and History did. It's a tough choice, and I think some of the discussion today is really, from 3,800 options, we narrowed down to 2 really good ones, and either would be representative of the state of Mississippi. We'd be proud for both of them to fly. So our conversation today is really because we just want Mississippians to like the flag and endorse the flag.
Yeah, it was a very restless night, I think, for all of us, because it is such a monumental time in our state. But I do think that from what I've talked to people and what they've said, they're very supportive of the commission and the work we've done, and MDAH and the legislature as well. They just want to get behind a flag in November, and that will be our job moving forward. So it's been a pleasure working with all of you, too.
I'd like to concur with all of that. And not only I'd like to thank my fellow commissioners for the great work, we'd like to thank the delegation that nominated each and every one of us. It's been a pleasure working with you all. So into the state of Mississippi, in representation not only for myself, from the Mississippi Band of Choctawians, but this is our state, and I want us to all be proud of where we live.
Thank you, Chief. That was,
I totally agree, and Archives and History has done a magnificent job, and it's been great working with you all, the fellow commissioners, and, going in, I just had hoped in the end that we would have some very different, distinct choices, and gosh, did we ever, and they were so great. The talent, I think, that we've seen, through our graphic designers and just those that wanted to submit, pencil drawings or watercolors or colored pencils. So it's been great. Loved every minute of it.
So you think we're through?
I don't know. You think we're through?
I don't know either.
We're waiting
okay?
to see the vote.
I just say the best thing about this is, I like everybody on this commission. It's been a real pleasure.
Absolutely.
Hasn't it? Every one of you, it has been a delight, seriously. Thank you very much.
thank you. I got the results and,
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry, TJ.
I'm sorry. And I talked to Mac about this last night. I think it was last night, and I wanted to see what the group thought. I think at the first meeting, Mr. Chairman, you said something I thought about throughout this process, that if any other time in our country, more than any other time in our country, I think, we need the mercy and grace of God. I think you said that at the first meeting. And so I think you mentioned it in relation to the flags and that our motto being on the flag. I wanted to see what the commission thought about whichever flag wins today, branding it, and for the rest of this year as we, campaign for whichever flag, branding it the In God We Trust flag. Would the commission be open to something like that?
100%.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I second.
All those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion passed. Thank you,
Yeah,
TJ.
great idea, TJ.
I have the results of the vote. The vote is 8-1 for the Magnolia flag, and I will hand Katie the resolution that adopts that. I'll entertain a motion likewise that the Magnolia flag be adopted unanimously by this body with
So
unanimous
moved.
consent.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate aye. Aye. Katie, before we come to a close, looking at the agenda here, you're going to reveal the flag.
The flag is up behind you. This is the
right.
new Magnolia flag, or
And the God We Trust flag.
now known as the In God We Trust flag.
Okay. The last thing on the agenda is a motion to adjourn, and before we do that, I'm going to call on myself to make a couple of comments, and I'm going to take off my mask and go to the, it's difficult for me to talk with a mask on, but I did want to make some comments. Katie has thanked everybody, and I want to thank Katie and her team. This commission has been an absolute joy to get to know each of you, and thank you for all of the time and energy that you put into this. I don't know how the leaders selected such a great group of people to take out this task, and I must say you did it. I want to, on behalf of the state of Mississippi, to thank the 3,000 people who made submissions for the design of the flag. That is unusual in and of itself, and there were 75,000 people who felt enough interest in this flag to vote for it, and I think that's amazing. I grew up in Mississippi in the 40s and 50s, and all of my life, Mississippi has been at the bottom, 50th, in whatever category you can think of, whether income, health care, education. We've always been on the bottom. On November 3rd, I think that'll take a change. We won't move to the top, but I can assure you we will move. And how in the world is it that Mississippi could be on the bottom with all of the tremendous assets and resources that we have? We have the greatest people, the most talented and gifted people, the greatest poets and authors, musicians. We're the birthplace of America's music. We have the most fertile soil. Anything will grow in Mississippi. From cotton to watermelons to catfish, it'll grow here. We have timber and oil and gas, the Mississippi River and 90 miles of beaches. There's no reason for us to be on the bottom. We'll be on the bottom all of my lifetime, but my children and grandchildren will see us ascend. And it'll happen because of what you have done to bring this great object to the people of Mississippi to vote on. I'm so thrilled that you decided to take the flower of the magnolia tree, a tree that's been around 90 million years. And the thing about a tree is different than anything else. The oldest living organism on earth is the Methuselah tree that has been growing for 5,000 years in the desert of California. 5,000 years from now, our flag will be growing and showing and blooming. And we'll send a message to all of America that we are open for business. We'll send a message that we live in the future and not in the past. There was a great philosopher and spiritual leader who lived 3,000 years ago. And he told his people, he said, we grow trees over rice. And that's what we're doing. We're growing trees over rice. And we're looking to the future. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion. I'll entertain a motion. Thank you. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn this commission.
Second.
All those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Have a good day. Thank you. Thank you.